Craig, there has been no greater disappointment in Canada in the NHL this year than the Ottawa Senators. They were supposed to be fantastic, and they haven't been. Change of coach, slow start, goals against, Jacques Martin in, and now they find themselves out of the playoffs once again, maybe going on a late season surge, but it'll all be for naught as they'll miss the playoffs for another consecutive season. So the one big question for Ottawa is, should the Sens consider trading a piece of their core right now?
I always preach against not starting with no. So I'm not going to start with no. I think the most important thing with that question is now that you have an Ottawa Senators team that's performing near its capabilities, individually and collectively under Jacques Martin. We know they're going to need a new coach, and perhaps earlier I thought that had to be a focus. But when you're evaluating your team and asking yourself if this is something they should do, I think the fact that they're performing now gives Steve Staios and his management group an opportunity to really consider that question hard.
So, Craig, I think they absolutely have to consider trading a core piece now. Because to me, the core involves the players signed long term. You got Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, you got Sanderson, you got Shabbat, you have Chychrun. And these are the players that you are going to build around really Greg Shane Pinto, younger players as well. But those, that's the core. The problem I have, and I love the way Ottawa's playing now, and I like how they've responded to Jacques Martin. They look like a different kind of team. I've seen this before. I've seen this picture before. Slow start, big finish, just miss. We've learned lessons. We're going to be better for it. We got them next year. Now, that was always under DJ Smith, but I don't know if I'm willing to just roll the dice that that'll be different under a new coach. We've seen this, not quite garbage time, but second half surge when they're out of the playoffs over and over and over again. Where is it in October? Where is it in November? Why can't this group play like this when clearly, whether it's Jacques Martin or DJ Smith, we're asking them to play differently than they were playing earlier on in the years? So that's why, to me, if there is a move to be made from one of those core pieces to get a value return, to get a different kind of mix, if Jake Chychrun says, I don't know if I like it here this much, maybe I want to explore options in a couple years when my contract's up, I can't say no. I have to look at those options because I don't know if I'm comfortable just trusting that this second half surge under Jacques Martin, which looks great, and it is not just fool's gold that we have seen before, Craig. So I would look carefully at any of those players, Josh Norris being another one of them. If the trade is there to make sense, as much as I like these players, that's why I signed them long term, I would take a look at it because something has to change, and I cannot do this again next year.
Well, and I think the fact that you talk about, what we've seen, and it keeps repeating the same pattern and ultimately the same result. So how about this? How about we look at a great example of a team that did exactly what you suggest, the Winnipeg Jets. Kevin Cheveldayoff believed in a core group of players, and then he let it play out, but he didn't let it continue to play out where they were falling short. And you look at where the Winnipeg Jets find themselves at this point in time, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. I use the word bold. Kevin Cheveldayoff was bold. He was also realistic in saying, I can't continue to go down this path. And I think that, as you point out, that's where Steve Staios has to look to as an example of how you take your team not only to a different level, but to a level where you can have success.
That's a great example. Trading Pierre-Luc Dubois, letting Blake Wheeler go. That's not easy for Winnipeg, but it's paid dividends. They're better off for it. And that's not to suggest the players that are part of the core are not good. They are. That's the whole point. They have great value around the league. You'll be able to get good players back. And I don't want prospects, and I don't want picks. I need players that are going to play and be difference makers. And also, Craig, you would know this better than anyone. Steve Staios is a new GM. These are not his players per se. He didn't sign them to these contracts. He's not sort of invested in their own success the way that maybe a general manager who built this team as his own might feel. So he might be more willing to say, I didn't sign you that contract. I'm willing to trade you away if we get something back that makes our team better. There's a real opportunity because the foundation, there's a lot of good players in Ottawa. They just have to come together. New coach, better system play, better start, but maybe a significant tweak in personnel might help them turn the page from what has been a run of disappointing years into a better one next year.